Somewhere Hasson Reddick is envious
yes,
of Matthew Judon.
Yes, he is.
Because Matthew Judon
out of there
got dealt.
Peace.
Gone from a bad situation in New England where it had run its course, wanted a new deal. They adjusted some things last year. They weren't going to be doing it again this year.
Peace, son.
And so Matthew Judon is now an Atlanta Falcon. They completed the trade yesterday. Jordan Schultz was the first to report on it. He goes to the Falcons in exchange for a third-round draft pick.
That's a great pickup for Atlanta.
Apparently, the Falcons have been in the market for a pass rusher. They were in the Montez Sweat sweepstakes. Easy for me to say. Last year, they were able to pull this off. So now Matthew Judon goes to Atlanta. He's a member of the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean,
gone.
I'll say this. The dude is a premier edge player. He can play all four downs. If people hadn't seen him play, he can play against the run. He's not just a pass rusher. I would say it's not a stretch to say that he was, when healthy, that's the biggest key, when healthy, I would argue that he's their best player on that team. And he's an impact player. And so to add him, you got young guys like Ebiketie. Obviously, he's a Penn Stater, but, I mean, this should be a breakout year for him. They have a pretty decent defensive front, and they have an offense. And it looks to be a much improved offense with the addition of Kirk Cousins and maybe even Michael Penix coming in. Who knows how that plays out. But one thing that rings true is when you have an offense that can put up points, edge rushers become super, super important, because now you're talking about in a pass first league, you're going to have guys that they're the most important guys outside of coverage guys. You got to have guys that can get to the quarterback. Matthew Judon is one of those guys that can get to the quarterback. Like I said, question for me, Q, is can he stay healthy?
Yeah, he obviously couldn't last year. I mean, in his two starts, I will say this, he did have 4 sacks. So, you look at the previous 2 years, he's incredibly productive. I think what's interesting is, do you remember all the flack that the Falcons got for drafting Michael Penix?
Yeah.
Because everyone had slotted in their mock drafts. All the dweebs out there in the mock drafts had slotted.
Damn.
No, everyone slotted an edge rusher. That was where Dallas Turner was going to go, right? Like, I don't know how many times I saw an edge rusher go in a mock draft to Atlanta. And then after the Michael Penix pick, there's all this controversy. Everyone, well, why do you sign Cousins? Why do you all this about the decision that they made? Well, it just so happens to work out. Like, we're those people now. We're the mock draft guys. Are they just waiting for 2025? Or are they going to come back and say, oh, I guess I was wrong. I guess it worked out for them. I mean, these sorts of things happen. It's kind of why when you find fans who throw in the towel on their team after the draft, it's just like, can we just wait and see how this all plays out? Like, there's no reason to overreact to what happens in the draft. Like, you're not a draft expert. I'm not a draft expert. Let's just see how this whole thing plays out, all right? That's all I'm saying. The only question I have is, like, he was unhappy in New England because of his contract situation. So you say he's traded so Hasson Reddick is jealous. No, he's not. He'll be jealous when they announce a contract that Atlanta signs with him. That's when Hasson Reddick will be jealous. If they don't announce any restructuring to his contract now,
he's in the same situation.
He's in the same exact spot. Like, what's changed?
Do you think Atlanta would do that, seeing what's happened with Hasson Reddick and the Jets?
I would hope that not only the team wouldn't, the agent wouldn't. Because if you're a part of this and you're his agent, like, you're going to get fired too if you can't figure out a way of getting something done. Like, I mean, the team's one thing, but they're the ones who traded for you. They obviously want you. Now it's about the agent being able to negotiate and get something done too.
Just curious as to, is this trend, are we on par with how agents, well, not agents, but how organizations are handling these contract situations, or are they bracing for heavy penalties that they're going to have to pay? And listen, I don't know how much that has to do with your salary cap. May have nothing to do with it, but I just wonder, are these lack of, we're not going to give out but so many big contracts or pay so much in what we're doing based upon other things outside of football? And I mean, I am referencing the judgment And I know it's still ongoing and it may be a lot of time, but I mean, it's a large chunk of money, this whole judgment thing with the Sunday ticket. I'm just curious as to are these teams, are these organizations really are they just doing business, wheeling and dealing as usual, or is there some type of hidden underlying reason? Because if CeeDee Lamb doesn't get done by week 1, which I anticipate he will, but if he were not to get done, that would be so out of character for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys to not get that deal done. So what would be the reasoning for it being different? Is it just a matter of we did it with Ezekiel Elliott, didn't work out? We kind of did it with Dak Prescott, maybe didn't necessarily pan out the way that we thought that it would pan out. But there are other teams that are, I mean, like, again, we've mentioned Jamar Chase. He wants the contract. Doesn't look like he's going to get it. He may not get it. You know, you have the Ayuk situation, which I think is a little bit more clear-cut. They just don't want to pay him the amount that he wants. But I'm just curious, is there any underlying feelings or any underlying thoughts that we just don't want to spend any exorbitant amounts of money on any players right now, especially if it's not, say, a quarterback?
I think there's multiple factors at play. The first I'd say is not knowing what the settlement or the result's going to be of the DirecTV deal. I mean, these owners have to have a lot of cash set aside to figure out how they're going to pay that, if and when that toll comes. So that's the first thing where I think there's maybe some owners being cautious about it. The next thing is that I do think there's somewhat of a bubble. Obviously, the salary cap is going to continue to keep going up. But I think there's an element of owners saying, like, we can't keep resetting the market with each position group and every player. And, for example, this is no disrespect to Brandon Ayuk, but I think we'd all agree he's not better than Justin Jefferson, is he?
No.
Okay. Him trying to reset and get paid more or equivalent to Justin Jefferson, I think the 49ers are like, dude, we love you, but you're not that player. Like, there's a reality that's coming too, where we lived in a world back when players used to be able to reset the market at their position group because they were a number one wide receiver. They were that guy at their position. I think we're entering into a world where that may not be the case moving forward. And the last thing I'll just say is, I go back and forth on this because there's a lack of transparency. All we really have are the Green Bay Packers books. But, these teams, they spend a lot of money. And they don't make quite as much profit as you think. And so it kind of depends on each individual organization and their ownership and, really where they're making their income. I mean, these are wealthy people. But they're also extremely wealthy in some cases because of what's on their balance sheet or their income statement or their net worth. Like, they don't have that much cash lying around if they don't have another business outside of the NFL that's generating all this profit, all this cash that they can then go and spend on a player. That's, in essence, what you're doing with some of these deals, because if you try to pay some of these players what they're asking and you make it all in their base salary, you can't make it work within the salary cap. So you then have to adjust it by giving them a big signing bonus and different bonuses within that allow you to not be hit by, or not have a big hit on the salary cap. So that's kind of the other element of it, is I think you're seeing owners too kind of pushing back, like, we're not really sure what's going to happen here the next year with the settlement, but also, like, we can't keep resetting the market every time there's a guy up for a new deal. It's getting ridiculous.
You guys ready for a quick game show before we go to Eddie Garcia? You ready for this?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Can you guess the team in the NFL with the lowest win total heading into this season, according to our friends at DraftKings?
Carolina Panthers.
All right, you've got the Carolina Panthers. Brady Quinn, who's your guess?
The New England Patriots.
Brady Quinn, that is correct. You are the winner for the team with the lowest win total heading into the 2024 season at 4.5. They are going to be a vomit bucket.
Dang.
I mean, LaVar.
It's over.
See how fast he had that teed up?
He did have it teed up.
Did that not clue you in on the fact that clearly it was going to be New England? Yeah.
Yeah, but I just still figured I'd go with what the right answer is.
Appreciate it, VAR. You know, you took a gamble there.
I took a gamble on who I think that, you know.
By the way, you're not wrong.
I mean, vomit is vomit. I mean, it could be two people doing it, but if it lands on one another, it's still vomit.
Man,
so.
New England's going to be brutal this year.
You think they're going to outdo the Carolina Panthers?
Oh, yeah.
I think they're both going to be pretty bad. I mean, here's the one thing I'd say about New England is I just feel like now they're going to get exposed for being cheap. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, you were able to make up for it through Tom Brady. That is not going to be the case moving forward.
You're losing your best player. Like, that's your best player.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah, that's your best player. So, and you gave them away for a third-round pick. And like you guys said, Atlanta needed an edge rusher. Like, go in the first round, get an edge rusher. You didn't get an edge rusher. You took a quarterback. And now you get another team's best player at the very position that they would say you needed. And the point was made. But I just think that's crazy. You were able to do it for a third-round draft pick.
Yep. Gone.
Good for you, Atlanta.
Yeah. Where you at now, mock drafts?
Yeah.
Where you at now? Yeah. All you and your blogs and criticizing in the comments section. Yeah, take that, huh?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Atlanta now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, can't stop. Won't
Chew
stop.
on that, Prisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.